Hi everyone. For today's lesson, you are going to learn Introduction to Statistics. What are the information you have to know, what you will achieve end of this course. So before we start, I hope you have a question about what is statistics and why you have to study statistics. End of this section, you can answer for these questions. Here are some of the names you have to know under statistics. So see, you can learn and you see the meanings of each word. Then end of the section, you'll see what some of the names you will familiar with. Right. So before we entered into this course, I have some pre-quiz. So you can think about the solution for this. After we have done today's lesson, I hope you can answer for these questions. The first one, it is the science of collecting, organizing, analyzing, and interpreting data in order to make decision. So what is your answer? Think about now and end of the lesson. Then you can see which one is right or not. Then what is data? So think about that. Next, complete the definition. Dash consists of all subjects that are being studied. Think about that. Complete the definition. A dash is a subset of a population. We'll see end of this lesson you can answer for these questions. Right. The main question here, why you have to study statistics? The first main reason, the data are everywhere. When it comes to math, science or biology, anywhere you can see you had to collect some data. In political science or in stats, always we had to use data. Sometimes the statistical techniques are used to make many decisions that affect our lives. For example, nowadays, when you open news, you can see all the COVID cases. So they can put those case numbers into pie graph or the bar graph, or they can show you the numbers, how many affected, how many infections, vaccine rate, those kind of things. So you can learn now what's the importance of statistics. No matter what your career, you will make professional decisions that involve data, right? Not only in math, if you go anywhere, you have to study statistics. So here's an example. Statistics involved in all the sectors, science, math, social studies, language arts, and even the physical education or health. So everything involved or incorporated with statistics. Here are some of the examples from last year and this year using statistics. Some of the main provinces, they denote all the active COVID cases. Depends on the numbers, you can see how to recognize who affected more and less. Then compared to last year and this year, you can see the difference or the vaccine rate. How the infection increase or decrease by vaccine rate. Vaccinated people and unvaccinated people. So you can see the difference in the second graph, right? You see the number or the percentages of unvaccinated, partially vaccinated or fully vaccinated. So those are the information. If you want to read those graphs, so you have to know statistics, right? How you can represent your data, even though if you don't know the statistics, also easy to understand. What are statistics? What does statistics means? Always stats means the numbers. So you have to use numbers to represent or describe and draw conclusions about the data. After you collect data, sometimes you can put them into table or the graph, or sometimes you can draw some conclusions, right? with your common sense, you can make this is right or not, how you can give the conclusion based on your data. So that's the reason you have to study statistics. There are two different types of statistics. One is called descriptive. So another one is called inferential. So far in your school life, you have done some basic information about descriptive. The descriptive means you collect data and organize and put them onto the table and give some information, describe about that. For example, you can talk about mean, median, mode, or the standard deviation. Using that, you can give some information about that. So that is called descriptive. The second part of statistics is called inferential. Inferential means you have to test. Using the hypothesis, you had to test and give some conclusion about your data. So those are the two main parts you are going to learn in this section. The first part, descriptive, and the second part, inferential. We'll do one by one. So here are the most important picture about descriptive and statistics. So you can see the descriptive means you can put them into bar chart or the pie graph or the scattered plot or histogram. So you learn those graphs in this section. Inferential means you can see this is called normal distribution. Using that, you can reject or do not reject. So you learn some of the names, the null hypothesis and alternative hypothesis, end of the section. The key concept. Success in this statistics course, you have to have more common sense than mathematical solving. This one is most important part in math. So you don't need to use any solving or any calculations. Here, based on your common sense, you have to make a decision. Right? So you have to think carefully about the context, source, or conclusions and the practical implications. So we'll go one by one. What is context? What is source? And what is practical implications? Right, before that, I'm going to show you in this chapter 1, what are the parts I'm going to include. The first thing, the nature of data. What does data means? The data mean after you collect, how you can collect those data. What are the two different types of data you can have? Quantity, quality. Under the quantity, you can have continuous, discrete. So you have to know how to differentiate, how to recognize that data is continuous or discrete or quantity or quality. Those are the information. After done this section, you will answer for that. Then uses and abuses of statistics. What is uses and abuses means? Sometimes when you read the graph, sometimes that will mislead. Depends on the graph or the data. Depends on the collection part, you will see some abuses. We'll see what is uses and abuses end of the section. Then the design of experiment. There are two different types of experiment. Observation and experimental. I think you are familiar with those names under probability in your school days. So we'll see how you can differentiate experimental and observational studies. Right. You heard about the polls, studies, surveys. That's the way you can collect data, right? Because if we want to study about Edmonton or Alberta or Canada, we can't choose the whole population, right? Instead of that, you can pick some small group from the large group to get some information. Based on that, you can make a prediction about the whole group. For example, if I want to answer for one of the question about your class, without asking 70 students, I pick 15 or 20 students to get the solution or get the prediction. For example, I can pick 5 from the front table, 5 from the mid, and 5 from the last row. To ask questions based on that, I can make a decision. So that is called the sample. The population mean your whole class. The sample mean I pick some small group from the large group. So now you know there are two names you have learned here, the population and the sample. That's the most important part you have to know throughout the course. Right. Sample and population has special meaning. Formal definition for these and other basic terms will be given here. First thing first, the data. The collections of observations, so that is called the data. So you can collect the data so many ways. The measurements, genders, surveys or responses. So you can see some ways you can collect data. You can call and collect data, or you can collect the data from the computers, or sometimes the letters or the magazine, or so many ways you can collect data. Now, what is statistics? After you collect data, what is statistics means? It's a science. Statistics means the science of planning, studies and experiment, obtaining data, and then organizing, summarizing, and then analyzing. Finally, you had to interpret and do the conclusion. That is simply we call the statistics. The population. Of course, you know what is population means, but here you have to understand what is population means. The complete collection of all individuals. That is called population, right? You can't miss out anyone. In this a whole class, that is called the population. If I want to select the population, I had to ask question to everyone, not like a 50 instead of 70. That is not called the population. So that's the first term you had to know under this course. Then the sample. So you had to know the difference between census and sample. The census means, so you had to collect the data from every member of the population, right? I know this, or you know that. What the census mean? Every 4 to 5 years, the government will send some letters to collect census. You can go to online and fill that, how many people living in your household, what are they doing, what is their occupation, those kind of information. Sometime if you miss that, they will come to your house and collect those information. That is called census. So that is census is different than the sample. Sample means sub-collection from the whole population. You had to pick some small group from the large group to study. So that is called the sample. I hope now you understand what is population and sample. So the chapter key concept. The sample data must be collected in an appropriate way, right? So that is called the random selection. Don't pick only the first row. If I want to ask some question, if I select only the first row or the middle or the last row, that is not the proper way to select. If I want to select like a random selection, I have to choose some from the front, some from the mid, and some from the last table. That is called the random selection. Right? If you are not collecting your data in the proper way, so that is finally useless. You can study or you can give proper information about it. Right? Here are some of the questions. You can identify which one is sample and which one is the population. So I'm going to finish at this point and we'll see in second lesson. Thank you.